we put this class together to give you guys some information and make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on, and so that you guys could be have some awareness about fentanyl and drug overdoses and stuff that's affecting everybody, and so that you guys hopefully would not become victims of accidental overdoses and stuff that's going on. So fentanyl, we'll start off by telling you the definition of what it is. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid analgesic, so it's about 80 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. Morphine is a standard drug that is used in the medical field. That's what's used like by rescue personnel when they show up, or if you're in the hospital and get the surgery, that's what they'll use. You have like a morphine drip, right? But if you think about this, a lot of times you guys haven't really been exposed to morphine unless you guys have had surgery or something. So what you guys might have had is, how many of you guys have had like a dental procedure where you had a root canal or a tooth pulled, or you broke an arm or a leg or something? Right, so here's what happens is, then you've had something given to you like Percocet, or Lortab, or Norco, some painkiller given to you by the doctor. That drug is going to have a painkiller, and in that painkiller you're going to have hydrocodone, oxycodone, some kind of drug in it, with as well as acetaminophen in it. And that drug is a opiate, okay? This drug is, and that opiate is about 1.5 times more powerful than morphine. This drug, that fentanyl that we're talking about today, is still about 100 times more powerful than that drug, okay? So here's a little graphic that I want to show you guys to give you guys an example of how this works and what we're talking about. Over here on the left, you have these two little test tubes here. And you look at this one here, this is an example of 1 dose of fentanyl. And these is how many doses of morphine it would take to equal 1 dose of fentanyl. All right, so this is a visual representation of how it looks. Here you have some numbers, and it shows you that from 2012 to 2015, there's been a 264% increase in opioid deaths, overdoses for people overdosing on opioids. Right here you have this, tells you that often fentanyl has been mixed with other drugs. And what happens is drug dealers or people who are using drugs will end up putting fentanyl in with other drugs to make them more potent. They say, for example, I'm a drug dealer and I have 1 pound of cocaine, and I can sell that 1 pound of cocaine to 100 people. Well, if I put some fentanyl in that 1 pound of cocaine, instead of selling to 100 people, I can cut it with a very little amount of fentanyl and sell that same amount of cocaine to 1,000 people or 10,000 people, right? Because the potency of fentanyl in it. And the problem with that is what you see when we talk about later, is you don't know how much fentanyl is in each dose of cocaine. So even though you might use 1 dose and normally the next dose you get might have a higher level of fentanyl in it, and that's what's causing some of these overdoses. So let's look at some numbers here in Yuma County. This is for the past 6 months in the city of Yuma, not Yuma County specifically, the city of Yuma in the past 6 months. And these are from we had a local firefighter who was helping me out with this training, and he's the one that brought these numbers in, right? So the city of Yuma here gave 96 naloxone administrations. Naloxone is a opioid antagonist, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. Is what we give you if we find you in your overdose on an opioid like fentanyl or oxycodone, hydrocodone, methadone, something like that. We're going to give you naloxone to save your life. 10 of these cases involved teenagers. 10 of these cases involved teenagers. The youngest one being 13 years old. The most recent one that I'm aware of was just a couple days ago. It wasn't for opioids, but the most recent opioid overdose I was aware of was about a week ago, where they administered naloxone or Narcan, which is a brand name that we carry, to a kid to try to save their life. Okay? Statewide, in the past 6 months, we had 2,392 suspected opioid deaths, right, in the state of Arizona within the last 6 months. Here's a number a lot of people don't talk about, though. During the Vietnam War, we had over 56,000 American soldiers died in the Vietnam War. Last year alone in the United States, we had over 72,000. The number I saw the other day actually surprised me. I thought it was around 58. I found out recently it's over 72,000 people died last year in the U.S. alone for opioid deaths. So we had more people die in 1 year alone in the U.S. for opioid deaths than the entire Vietnam War, or the Vietnam Armed Conflict, however you want to call it. So why do people abuse fentanyl? If this drug is so potent, it's so deadly, why are people taking it? Why are they even messing with it? Well, here's the deal. Most people are not taking the drug on purpose. The people who are being exposed to this drug are having accidental exposures or accidental ingestion of the drug. We recently had a Yuma Police Department employee who was exposed to this drug accidentally while searching somebody. And they had a Dallas police officer who overdosed and almost died because he was accidentally exposed to this drug. All right? So what happens is there's a pill called N30 oxycodone hydrochloride, which is this pill here. And this is a pill that kids are trying to get, which is trafficked across the border from Mexico. They get high. Now here's what's happening. Kids are taking drugs like Percocet, Percodan, Lortab, oxycodone, hydrocodone, and taking these pills, and they get addicted to these pills, and they start abusing these pills. These pills normally are coming in the strengths of 5-325, which is 5 milligrams of Oxycontin, 325 milligrams of acetaminophen. This pill has 6 times that amount. So this pill has 30 milligrams of Oxycontin. So this pill is 6 times more powerful than like Percocet or Lortab or those pills that you would normally get. The problem is, these drugs are being faked across the border. Recently, we had 250 pounds of fentanyl that crossed the border into America from Mexico illegally. The other day I saw in the media, they arrested a woman dressed like a nun who was smuggling on her body fentanyl into America across the border. All right, the 250 pounds was enough to kill 10 million people. So what happens is, at one of the high schools here in town, a kid snorted half of one of these pills thinking it was oxycodone, and it was fentanyl, and he overdosed. So they had to administer naloxone to the kid to save his life. Here are some other pills that kids are trying to abuse. This pill here is actually alprazolam, which is Xanax. This is another pill that kids recognize as a Xanny bar, except it's the wrong color, right? It's a fake pill. Remember I told you they put fentanyl in other pills? The problem when kids abuse drugs, first off, you guys should never do drugs. That's a whole other class. All right, I can tell you about why you shouldn't do drugs, how it affects your brain, how it rewires you to be different, all kinds of different reasons. But when you do drugs, and you're not getting them from a doctor, or from a pharmacy in the US, you have no idea what you're getting. Drugs that come from Mexico are not regulated by the FDA. So, or from drug dealers. Right? Drug dealers don't buy their drugs from pharmacies. So you could be getting pills that have cat poop in it. You have no idea. There was a kid that was selling pills to his friends at school that he told them was oxys. He stole them from his dad. What he was actually giving them was laxatives. So all those friends were pooping themselves at school. All right? So this happened recently, it was in the news, if you look it up. These are all pills that kids are trying to abuse, and all these pills can be fake and have fentanyl in them. And the problem is, when these dealers are making these pills at home, you think they put the exact same amount of fentanyl in all these different pills? No, they don't. So kids are overdosing on these drugs. You have to be. Here's some other pills that kids are using. Percocet is probably the only drug, maybe Percodan, that you guys might ever experience unless you become a cancer survivor or a burn victim or an amputee or something like that. See, there are reasons for pain medications. There are reasons for people to get these kind of drugs and use these kind of drugs. These kind of drugs are given, these drugs on the left here are 20 milligrams of Oxycontin, 80 milligrams, and 160 milligrams. These are heavy doses of drugs. These drugs are given to people who are dying from cancer, people on hospice care, people who are burn victims, people who have had amputations, people who need pain care 24/7. So what happens is, regular drugs don't work for them anymore. Fentanyl was a drug that was created specifically for some reasons like that. Ladies, those of you here who might want to have kids eventually, you may get an epidural. Fentanyl is the drug they use in an epidural. If you have surgery, they also use fentanyl in surgeries sometimes, right? So these are different reasons. So the drugs have actual uses, right? This is a patch called a fentanyl patch. It's a synthetic duragesic transdermal patch. It's a patch that goes on your skin. It administers the drug through your skin for 1, 2, or 3 days. Very potent. You're not supposed to touch the patch without gloves on. When they first came out with this patch, a nurse had to administer the patch to you, take the old patch, sign it, turn it in, and get the new patch to put it on you. Nowadays, they give them out to people. The thing is, they give them for cancer survivors, just like I said, they give them to wounded veterans who've had, from bomb victims and stuff like that. Kids are abusing these patches. My first experience with this patch, and this is the only way I've ever seen kids purposely abuse fentanyl. Many years ago, I would say, I think back in like 2006, 2007, I had a student who was abusing this patch. She was found unconscious in class. And when I came in, luckily somebody told me that she had a patch on. Because otherwise, would I have found that patch? Because you think she put it on her forehead? No, she hid it under her breast. Now her boyfriend had one too, and he had it in his butt crack. Now here's the part that sucks about that, guys. She put the patch on. She was normally abusing Percocets. When she put the patch on, it didn't work right away. Why? It takes a while to go through the skin. So she took a Percocet. She got high on her Percocets, the patch kicked in, and down she went. When I came in the classroom, luckily somebody said, she's on a patch. We don't know what kind of patch, but she took a patch. So when rescue came, they were able to take her into the rig, to the rescue rig, and they stripped her down until they found the patch, and it was under her breast. They pulled the patch off, because if they had not, when they gave her Narcan, it would have done no good. Because once they gave her the Narcan, she would have came out and went right back under. Why? Because she still has a patch on. So unless we run into a classroom when you're unconscious and say, strip them naked, let's look them for a patch first, which is not going to happen, there's no way for us to know if you're under the influence of one of these patches. And then look how hard they are to find. Now, a common person who uses this patch will have chemical burns on their skin because the patch is so powerful. When they pull it off and put it back on, you actually see burns on their skin from these patches. This little lollipop here is called an actic pop. They give this to veterans in combat when they get shot for pain, when they transport them out, and the people who are in hospice care, and other people with severe pain. Kids are abusing these too. How many of you guys have ever ate a lollipop before? Did you ever lick it till it went away? What do? You bite it, right? So what happens is, kids take these lollipops and they suck on them and they get high. And then they forget that they're sucking on a drug lollipop, and then what do? And then they pass out and they die. Because they instantly are injecting themselves with 800 micrograms of fentanyl. Here's another visual representation I'm giving you guys. You guys look at this. This is heroin. If these drugs come in powder form, they come in liquid form, they come in pill form, and honestly, and someone brought this up the other day, and I want to clarify with you guys, if you were to have a pill, and you just held a pill and it wasn't crushed, and it wasn't in powder form, and you held it in your hand, could you hold a fentanyl pill, or carfentanil pill, or even if it was a heroin pill in your hand, if you made them, could you hold it in your hand and not be exposed to it? Technically, if your hand wasn't wet, and it wasn't broken, you technically could handle it. You shouldn't, but technically you could handle the pill in your hand if it wasn't broken, if it wasn't wet, and you could not be exposed to it. You shouldn't do that though, because there's a possibility of exposure. Our officer the other day touched some pills that were in someone's pocket and was exposed to the drug. Right? So you can, because it depends if it's been crushed a little bit, if it's in powder form, if you have a cut on your hand, if your hands are wet, you can get it transdermally. So you should always, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, you should always wear something. But here's something else that happens. The kid at Yuma High had snorted the pill. So what do you have to do first to snort it? You have to crush it up. How many of you have seen your friends snort Smarties before? Yeah, I've never understood that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it's in powder. What happens when they snort the Smarties? There's powder everywhere, right? So your friend, or tahini, I would never understand that. Yeah, anyway. So if someone they snort heroin, that's how much of it would take to kill you. This is how much fentanyl would take to kill you. Look at this, very little, right? That's carfentanil. Fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than heroin, and carfentanil is 1,000 times more powerful than heroin. They use that to tranquilize elephants. This is what it looks like on a penny. So if you had a penny, and you had the penny in your hand, and you had that much fentanyl on the penny, and it was to get into your nose or your eyes or into your mouth, or you weren't to inhale it, you would die. The whole point is you just throw the penny away. Yeah, you could, but I'm showing you this as a representation of the fact that that's how much of the powder would take to kill you. So imagine this, someone were to take that amount of fentanyl, liquefy it, and dip marijuana into it, and you're smoking the marijuana that's been laced with that much fentanyl. Now what if they put 10 times that much fentanyl into the marijuana you're smoking? You're going to overdose and die from it. And this is what I'm trying to alert you guys from. Over here on the left is a little list that shows me this is morphine. This is the standard they judge all the drugs by. Here's hydrocodone and oxycodone. Up at the top here is fentanyl, 100 times more powerful. Way up here is carfentanil. See a little laser up here? 1,000 times more powerful than morphine. Down here on the bottom is acetaminophen, that's Tylenol. Right? And then here's aspirin, and here's naproxen, ibuprofen. Right? Here's codeine. Right? Here's tramadol. We had a problem with tramadol a couple years ago, about 3-5 years ago in the school when kids were having seizures all over the districts. That's because when you overdose on tramadol, it causes seizures. Luckily, kids finally realized they were having seizures from taking the drug and they stopped. Over here on the right is a conversion chart. I put that there to show you guys that the drugs, if you look down here, it comes in lousinger form, it comes in sublingual, it comes in all different types of forms. You can ingest it in any way you can think. Some people even take these drugs rectally. If you don't know what rectally means, ask your teacher. No. All right, so this is proper PPE, personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment, that's what PPE means. Whenever you hear someone talk about that, that's what they mean. If you get it into your eyes, us as police officers, me and Officer Reed, whenever we test a drug and it's in powder form, we're supposed to wear PPE. Because if the powder, we've had an officer before testing a drug and they opened the package and the powder went in the air and she got it into her eyes. That's how the officer got exposed to it in Dallas. Also, you can breathe it in. If the powder gets in the air and you breathe it in, or let's say your friend overdoses and you walk in the room and your friend is overdosed on the drug because they snorted it, and you walk in and you start giving them CPR and they cough, and the air gets into your lungs and they breathe some of that powder into your face, will you overdose? Could you overdose as well? Yes, you possibly could. Not saying you're going to, but you possibly could. We wear gloves anytime we deal with drugs, or we're supposed to, right? You have gloves. They cannot be latex. They have to be, we'll have time for questions afterwards, okay? So you can't be latex. They have to be nitro or barrier tested. These are nitro gloves, and these are barrier tested nitro gloves. Those are like the ones on the left. They have this little coating on the inside. Because fentanyl can go through latex gloves. There's also other drugs besides fentanyl that are dangerous, like liquid forms of LSD or PCP. There was an officer, again in Texas, everything happens in Texas, right? Where they sprayed the officer with liquid form of PCP, and he was exposed to it transdermally, and he had to retire medically because he had some effects from it. So what can you do? How can you tell? Well, before we move further in, I'm going to tell you how to tell if your friend is high on the drug or overdosing and what you can do. But before we get to that, I want to tell you guys something else. There's a new law, Title 133423. It's part of the Arizona Opioid Epidemic Act. You can look it up on the Arizona Governor's Office website. Right? This year, Governor Ducey passed a law and put it into effect. As far as I know, there's at least 41 states that have similar laws. We passed it in this state recently. Here's what the law says. If you or you and your friend are doing drugs and one of you overdoses and you call the police or rescue 911 for help because of your overdosing, and we arrive and in the process of offering you assistance we find drugs, you will not be charged. Here's the reason why. In the past, if you were at your friend's house and you guys were doing drugs and your friend overdosed, what did kids do? That looks like it sucks. Let them in the closet and deal with them tomorrow. Why wouldn't they call the cops? Because they didn't want to get busted. So kids would die. Or like one kid the other day said, man, I just leave them right there and run. Another kid said, oh, my friends would dump me on my lawn and wait for my mom to find me in the morning. Dead. So we want to stop that from happening. So what the law says now is that if you overdose and your friend is with you, we want your friend to call us. We're telling you and your friend that they will not get in trouble for any drugs we find. You won't get any trouble for any drugs we find, and we won't charge you for being under the influence. However, if it happens at school and you call us, you still won't get arrested. That doesn't mean you're not going to get school discipline. And it applies for all ages too. It's not just kids, it's for adults. So if you're at school and you're in the bathroom and you and your friends decide to hit a vape pen that your friend gave you, and it's a marijuana wax pen, but someone laced it with fentanyl and you hit it, or something else, and you take the hit and now you don't feel good, you're like, I don't feel good, and you go down, and your friend runs and gets Mr. Casares and says, hey, I was in the bathroom, we just hit this vape pen. And they go get Reed, and Reed runs in there to get you guys help. Reed is going to take the vape pen and all the drugs she finds on you guys for evidence for destruction. No, you're not going to get it back later. You're going to go to the hospital, you're going to get care. You're not going to get charged. When you're better and you come back, there might be school discipline. That's going to be up to the school. But we are not going to charge you. Case in point, 2 stories I'm going to share with you. One, Copa High School, a while ago, a student walks in the front office, into the nurse's office, says, I need help, I don't feel good, falls down, he's out. They call for help, I run in there, when I get in there, he's talking to me. He says he doesn't feel good, he doesn't know what's going on. We end up searching him, we find Xanax on him. Right? We transport him to the hospital, I take the Xanax, take the stuff that he had, put it in evidence for destruction. Him and the parents in the office later on saying, it's not mine, I know where it came from, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not charging you. You came asking for help, this is what happened, the school can deal with it. Right? He didn't get charged. The school dealt with it, and they handled the situation. Why are we doing it? So people won't die. Second thing, 2 weeks ago on Monday, I'm at Gila Ridge High School, teaching this class. One of the students raises her hand and says, hey, so you're telling me if I'm high on a drug, and I'm at school, and I make a report to you that I'm high, you're not going to arrest me. I said, that's what I'm saying. After class, her friend next to her walks up to the officer, Stokes, and says, I overdosed on Xanax, I need help. We walked to the nurse's office, she got help, we called rescue, called her parents, she went to the hospital, she got help, no charges were filed. You guys understand? Okay. So how can you tell? The signs of a fentanyl overdose are the same signs as any kind of an opiate overdose. And these are very dangerous drugs to be messing with. You shouldn't be messing with them at all. But if you see them, there's things that we can do to try to save your friends' lives. First off, you can have labored, shallow breathing or respiratory arrest. They're going to have a hard time breathing, shuttered breathing. They're going to be very lethargic, or they're going to stop breathing. They're going to have small, pinpoint, contracted, constricted pupils, like the tip of your pencil. If you take your pencil out and look at the tip, very, very teeny tiny pinpoint, like they have no black to their eyes. It's going to be all white. Right? They're going to have cold and clammy skin. They're going to be like, you look at your friends right now, their skin looks normal. When you look at them when they're overdosing, they're going to look white, or sometimes blue, because they're not getting oxygen. And they're going to be sweating profusely. It can also be a sign of PCP or some kind of hallucinogen, right? But usually it's an overdose from fentanyl, stuff like that. They're going to be very tired. You're not going to be able to wake them up. If your friend is just sleepy because they stayed up playing Xbox or PS4 all night, you're going to be able to wake them up like, leave me alone, man, I'm tired, go back to sleep. If they're high on a drug and an overdose, you're not going to be able to wake them. You're going to do what's called a sternum rub, right? Or we will do it if you call us. We're going to get our knuckles like this. You're going to put them on their chest right here. You guys do it to yourselves. Get your knuckles like this. Put it on right here in your chest. There's a bone. And push and rub real hard. You'll see it hurts. Right? The only way you're not going to respond to that when I do it to you is if you're overdosed. Right? You're not going to be able to walk, be confused. You're not going to know who they are or where they're at. Right? This is how you're going to tell if someone's overdosed. If this happens and they stop breathing, you're going to start CPR. Right? You're going to start CPR. We're also going to have other things. We're going to administer naloxone if we have it. We'll get to that. How many of you here are CPR certified? Anybody? Okay. We've changed how to do CPR and taking rescue breaths away. And this has been the standard for a while. Rescue breaths really are only good for stuff like when water drowning and stuff like that. Otherwise, you want to do continuous compression CPR, which is about 100 beats per minute. You're going to overlock your hands, right? Like this. You're going to put your arms out. You're going to kneel next to the person on the ground. And then you're going to overlock your hands like that, over their chest, right over their heart. And you're going to push down about 2 inches on their chest, compressing their heart. What you're doing is you're moving the blood through their body. There's still oxygen in their blood, in their body, and you're moving that around. You have between 4 to 6 minutes before they start to have brain damage from not having oxygen to the brain. Right? That's what we're trying to stop from happening. Right? So to give you guys an idea, I'm going to give you guys 2 songs to remember. When you go to CPR training, they're going to tell you to use the song "Staying Alive." Oh. So while you're doing the beats, you're going to go "Staying Alive, Staying Alive, Staying Alive." But some of you guys don't know the song. So I'm going to give you guys a song I know that you guys all know. You guys ready? Baby shark, doo 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 doo, baby shark, doo 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 doo. Just remember Baby Shark, and you can save somebody's life. Think about this, guys. When your friend gets better and they're back at school, you can be like, "I Baby Sharked you back to life." Right? You'll never forget it. You'll always remember, but it's not like a slow Baby Shark. Baby Shark like the song Baby Shark. All right? So what do? If you think your friend is dying, you think your friend is overdosed on drugs, call 911. That's the first thing you're going to do. I know you all have phones, or most of you do. Whether you have service or not, you're going to call 911. You're going to turn to somebody and say, "Call 911. You're going to lay your friend down. Don't just watch him fall like, "Dude, it looks like you're going to..." Yep, he fell. Lay them down. Have someone else call the front office. Have them call the SRO. Right? You're going to clear the area around them. If they start to have seizures, do not stick anything in their mouth. They're not going to swallow the tongue. They're not going to bite it off. Don't be doing we need to do an emergency tracheotomy. Someone give me a pin and a knife. No, we're not going to be doing nothing like that. You just lay them down, make sure they're safe. If they stop breathing, if you have naloxone, administer it. I'm going to show you on the next slide. We carry naloxone. Right? This is what it looks like. I'm going to talk about it more. Reed has it as well. Right? The school has naloxone on campus. Right? You guys have some?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All the high schools have it, for sure. And I know the nurses' offices have it at the schools. And all the schools are getting it. If they don't have it already, the schools are getting it. All the rescues have it. So call us. If you have it, administer it. I know for a fact Reed has it, so she can administer it. Officer Mosqueda of YUHSD has it. He can administer it. If you don't have any, start CPR immediately. And then stay with them until somebody arrives to help. What naloxone does is an opioid antagonist. What it does is it immediately overacts the opioids in your body. My first experience with naloxone was as a new officer on the road. A guy overdosed on heroin, and he was dying. He had the needle in his arm. I thought he was dead. I called my sergeant, "Hey, Sergeant, he's dead." Well, then they gave him another injection, and he went out. So I was like, "Did you guys just kill him?" I mean, the guy was dead. You guys gave him a shot. He came back to life, and you just killed him again. And they're like, "No, we gave him naloxone, Narcan, which counteracted the heroin. He had a heroin overdose. And then they gave him a sedative to calm him down. This stuff is life-saving, but it only works against opioids. But if the kid or the adult is not overdosing opioids, it won't hurt them to give it to them. So let's say they overdose on Xanax, and you give them this, it's not going to hurt them. But if we give them naloxone, and it doesn't work, what do we know? It's not an opioid. So we can try something else afterwards. But the only time you give this is if they're not breathing. If they're breathing fine, and they're just like, "Yeah, what's up, man? What are you doing?" Right? Then we know. So you know when your friends are high, or when they're high, right? You look at your friend like, "Dude, that dude's faded." Like, yeah, I can tell he's high. We're talking about overdoses. We're talking about overdoses here. So here's some things I want to get across to you guys. Kids who overdose on these drugs didn't just one day wake up and be like, "You know, I think today I'm going to overdose." These kids have been doing drugs for a while, and they've had problems. And you guys have seen it, and you guys were aware of it. You guys have seen your friends at school having problems with their appetite. They've lost weight, they've gained weight, they've had problems walking. All of a sudden, they used to be athletic, they're not athletic anymore. They start giving stuff away, they were the cool kid, now they're really mean to everybody. You've seen these different things. You've seen physical symptoms. They have runny nose all the time, they're stinky, they're vomiting all the time, they're throwing up. These are things that you guys see and you guys can tell us about. They used to always be hanging out, playing softball during lunch, playing football during lunch or basketball. Now they're by themselves and they don't want to talk to anybody, right? They're starting to become, get in trouble at school. They're always paranoid. They're always trying to, they're accusing everybody of everything. These are different things that you guys see. Now these are all warning signs. And I want to tell you guys that these warning signs aren't just about drugs. These kids might be suicidal. They might be victims of abuse, domestic violence, sex abuse at home. So here's why I'm telling you guys. You guys know these kids and you guys have a chance to tell somebody before they overdose because you see them every day. So here's some websites. If you want to take a picture with your phones, you can pull your phone out and take pictures real quick. These are websites about drugs. This is going to be posted online so you can get it later, so you really don't have to if you don't want to. Right? But I'll leave it up here for a couple of seconds so you can take pictures if you want. If you want to tell us about your friends, I'm going to give you a link to go to tell us about your friends so you can help them. Right? If you have an iPhone, you can go to the Apple Store and download the Yuma Police Department app. If you have an Android, you can go to the Google Play Store and download the same app. On there, you can make an anonymous report to Officer Reed at your school, to my school, to me at my school, or anyone else about a friend of yours, about you, about anybody else, and say, look, I just came out of the bathroom and so-and-so was wasted. They were praying to the porcelain god. You know what that means, right? Throw it up in the toilet. They're thrown up in the toilet and they need help. And then that app will notify Lori Franklin, the sergeant of the police department, will then forward that response to Officer Reed so she can go help that student. Nobody will know you told us. Right? The good thing about that is, like for me, the next slide I'm going to give you my phone number. But if you called me now to tell me something, am I going to be in my office for you to tell me? No. But if you send me to the app, will I get the message? Yes, it'll come to my phone. You can also call 78 Crime and make the report. You call 78 Crime, it's an anonymous reporting tool. You call there and you make the report and it tells everybody about what's going on. Here's my information. This is for you guys, so you have my information. It tells you my phone number on the campus, and this is my work email address at the police department. I give you my work email address because sometimes kids are like, I don't want to write you at school because the principal might see it. Send me here at the police department. If you have a problem or one of your friends has a problem, reach out to me, please. I'll forward it to who needs the information and get you some help, or your friends some help. We've talked about a lot of stuff today. I went over fentanyl awareness, talked to you guys about fentanyl and different prescription drugs and things on how it can hurt you. I've told you that kids are being exposed to these drugs accidentally. Some kids are abusing these drugs on purpose, right? What I want you guys to understand is, first off, you shouldn't do drugs at all. But when people give you these drugs, you have no idea what you're being exposed to. These drugs are coming illegally across the border, and we have a high volume of them here because we live so close to the Mexican border here, and there's people smuggling them every day. Like I told you, the lady just dressed as a nun recently is crossing across the border. So be careful. If your friend needs help, we want you to help your friend, call us. You're not going to get arrested.